I'm sure many of you have lots of good questions for Dan, and he's so smart, he has an answer for everything.
Yeah, when people used to work with a complex interface like, say, air traffic control system or something similar, so they use a concept like a virtual human or virtual user, where they can mimic that if a real user uses this interface, how much working memory will they need, or how much perceptual capability they can use. So do you think that that type of concept of a virtual user or a user model will be helpful for evaluating interfaces?
To an extent. The problem with virtual user models is that they are usually a single instance of an ideal person. And the truth is, one of my jobs is to go out and watch real people in real settings. And the diversity of humanity is astonishing and beautiful, right? And they will come up with things that you will never think about. Give you an example. I taught a 4th grade class how to use Google Translate, where you type in English and it translates it to Spanish or Hindi or whatever, right? And I got back a whole pile of letters from them, including one from a little boy named Armando, who wrote to me and said, "Dear Dr. Russell, thank you for teaching me how to write in Spanish. My parents don't want me to write in Spanish, but I want to write to my grandmother, and she only reads Spanish. I can now write to my grandmother." I don't know that your virtual human model would have figured that one out or come up with that as a use case, which is important. Okay? That's the kind of letter, that's the kind of user model that's really informative to me. It's a sweet story, I love it, but it's a kind of discovery, right? And I don't know that user models of that kind are going to capture that richness and that texture of humanity.
So in that case, what do you think a possible solution to get users' preferences? Because you are right, like user models mainly work on performance modeling, but they do not work on subjective evaluation. So
you mean like setting defaults and options and stuff?
Not like what do you think that how should we get that people's subjective preferences or special case use cases or something like that?
Well, setting preferences is a well-known black hole. We give people tons and tons of options and preference settings and all that stuff, and we know from log analysis that something like 85% of people don't touch them ever. Okay? That leaves 15% of you are the 15%, are changing them. And it's great. I mean, we'll do that, and everybody does that, but it's not a general solution.
I have a son who's at school at the moment, and he's learning Latin.
Yes.
And he tried to do an English to Latin translation for his homework using Google, and he said it was rather disappointing for him because the word order was all wrong, so he had to go and do it himself anyway. But do you
as he should have in the first place. Yeah.
Yeah. So do you have any plans to improve the quality of the translations?
Latin is an interesting, unusual, special case because there's not a lot of people writing a lot of Latin corpora these days. A few, but not many. And also the particular issue with Latin is that there are many, many different versions of it over time. So the Latin that was written in the 17th century was not the same as in the 0th century. And so learning the model is complicated, but nevertheless, yeah, we're constantly improving it. And the short-end answer to making language improvement translation better is to get more and more data. This is one of those cases where more data improves the quality of the whole system much more than you would believe. So the other thing is that going from a near language to a near language like English to Spanish or Spanish to French works much better than, say, going from Turkish to Chinese. Okay? Partly because we don't have too many parallel corpora to learn the model from, and the structure of the language, like English to Latin, it really is different. Latin is highly declined language, English is not, and so it's difficult to learn that model.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, whatever you said sounds all very good, and the talk was really fascinating to listen to. I know of an area that's called information literacy that people from the education sector have been talking about for many years. Mm-hmm. And I gather there is quite a lot of things that in your talk that basically relates to this.
Right.
So my question is, what do you think would be for us as academics, I'm an academic, what would be our approach? our approach should be to teach people information skills, what things we should be trying to do.
Yeah, that's a really good question. That actually is sort of the focus of my main research right now, is how do we figure out what to do. It troubles me that research of the kind we've been talking about is really central and important, and yet in the US, K-12, there's no class for that. It gets done by happenstance. It's by accident. Maybe you have a great history teacher or an English teacher or a film history teacher who teaches this to you, but it's all by accident. That's why nobody knows Control F, because there's no single class that anybody in the United States takes. So that's a problem number one. So I think a potential solution is to have, for example, the librarians, because every school still has a library, teach this as information and search literacy. Because, you know, truthfully, everybody's using search to solve their problems these days, and you can be good at it or you can be terrible at it. And I've seen a lot of terrible people. So this is something we have to do, I think, sort of globally, to improve the level of literacy throughout all the schools.
Is there any effort going on in speech recognition by Google wherein we don't have to type text, where we can dictate, starting with English and in other languages, that it will take and give back results?
The speech reco team is doing really pretty well. They have not tried to optimize it for dictation because they're really focused on just getting relatively small numbers of words in for search. But as it improves, yeah, you can see that that's going to be the way mobile text input is going to go. So no, I'm not telling you anything, but it's an obvious inference based on where the technology is.
I'm sure you will, any more questions, go to Google, you'll get all the answers.
That's right. Thank you again.
And if you don't get the answers,
it's my fault.
all right, thanks, Dan.
Thank you.